My name is Sheryl A. Dickey. I came to Broward County in 1992. I got hired by the city of Fort Lauderdale as their economic development director. So I was introduced to this community. First off, my first tour was of this community by the then city manager, George Hamberry. And he wanted to explain to me how this whole area needed to be redeveloped and that there were opportunities for development. And where I had come from Ohio, having run the small and developing business division for the state of Ohio. So I was familiar with funding, community development initiatives, economic development initiatives, because that was my role there. We had assisted small businesses, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, helped people with training funds and retooling, because the state of Ohio was in the Rust Belt and we had to redevelop. And so this was ideal. I realized, yes, this whole area needed to be redeveloped. And then as I then got laid off by the city and then worked for Blockbuster Park, they then did not move forward. So then I went into business for myself in 1995. With that, then, I always knew once I was in business, I wanted to have my own building, have my own office. I've always understood that we needed to get back our real estate and that we did not need to rent all the time. My parents owned their home, most of my relatives. My grandfather, Iverson Cave Sr., actually bought a house for each one of his children. This was in the early 1900s. So he taught us about real estate, taught us, not me, I was of course a child when he died, but point being that the fact that we did not need to rent, that we needed to own our own home so we wouldn't be homeless. What I later learned was that our family was one of the poorest of the poor in Portsmouth, Ohio. And so I can see now what his purpose was for making sure that his children had a place to live. It was important to also be a part of redeveloping this community. I actually knew about this location because my church members owned the location. The building was standing. It was Miss Williams' property. She and Mr. Williams, she inherited from her mother. They had rooming houses upstairs and novelty convenience stores, that's what they used to call them, downstairs, where you'd sell a bit of everything. And at one point dry cleaners was in the building. Other people had offices here. And then when I knew them, they also had somewhat of a car cleaning place right on this end, as a matter of fact. And so, as they grew older, they weren't really able to maintain and keep up with the building. So she was interested in selling. At the time, I did try to purchase it from her, but I then had a construction company come in to see if the building really could be rehabbed rather than tearing it down. But it was not structurally sound enough to really do that. It would have cost more to do that than to build a new structure. And, obviously we had just gone through Hurricane Andrew, and you know what all of that is. You really had to have new building materials and new rules and regulations and code. So I needed to deal with that. So then the city of Fort Lauderdale bought it, tore the building down, and then put out a request for proposal to actually build, and they wanted a mixed-use building. So I then submitted a proposal, and through God's grace, I won the proposal. And then probably over a period of 3 to 4 years, looking for financing, the right builder. And so I basically hired someone to assist with putting together the financing with me. And we found a bank. At the time, it was Northwest Savings Bank. They were in actually Plantation. They since have moved back to Pennsylvania, and that's where they came from, Pennsylvania. And so they took a risk. They understood about community redevelopment areas, so therefore they knew that this area was going to grow. And so luckily they did finance it because my bank, who is a bank from this area, did not. And so, of course, I'm just eternally grateful for that. And so I have been really graced by God to continue, was able to get it built, was able to get people to lease over a period of time. In the beginning, of course, I've always looked at this as a arts and business center because I've always been interested in art. And I knew that the whole entrepreneurial opportunities were there, especially for our people. We've always been creative, so I wanted to look at this from the standpoint of arts and culture, but also heritage and educating about our own heritage, and quite frankly about owning our own businesses and not believing that we had to work. Even though, of course, you can get the experience working for others, but to encourage others to know that they can also own their own business, and we really ought to be striving to do that. The future is really to then begin to get more of the young people involved in Destination Sistrunk, when we get the art gallery up, to open it up and actually have learning opportunities where we're bringing people in, hopefully with the school system, as well as some of the nonprofits who also deal with some of the youth, in addition to actually get people to begin to entertain more in the circuit. It's set up for any entertainer to be involved, so we're trying to get more of our folks who utilize other venues to come here and use this venue, so that they begin to know that we need to move back into our own community and make this a destination. Without that, that art and entertainment go along with getting people back into a community, because then we have people who want to do retail and have offices here, and the more activity we have on this corridor, the better that will happen, which is why we need to make sure this continues to be a destination, but you have to have programming to do that. So that's the future, getting more and more programming here in the building. I want to encourage our community and our young people to understand that it is critical for them, yes, to be a part of the new technology, math, science, engineering, and technology, because that's where all the businesses have to grasp onto that. But I want them to also understand they need to own their own real estate, and they need to stop giving away grandma and grandpa's property for money, and because that real estate is going to be more valuable to them than the money they're receiving today for them selling off property. So 2 things: want them to keep their property, want them to also consider going into business and owning your own business. Even if you have to get training under someone else as an employee, just be encouraged to also look at the fact that you are intelligent enough, you can make your own business successful. So please, please, please understand that we're all children of God and we can be successful.